Tash Talks is proudly sponsored by Recharge for smarter subscription experiences. The world's best brands are powered by routine, and the world's best routines are powered by Recharge. Welcome to Tash Talks, the chat show where we talk to some of the most inspirational female entrepreneurs and leaders in Britain today. Now, on this show, we celebrate leading women, but the question is, do you know when you're buying a product that is created by a female founder? Well, that's what our guest today is here to tell us all about. I want to welcome Sahar Hashemi, the fabulous founder of By Women Built. Sahar, so lovely to see you here today. Could you start by sharing with us, who is Sahar Hashemi?
Gosh, hello Tash. Who is Sahar Hashemi? God, I don't know how to describe myself, I suppose. At the moment, I could say founder of By Women Built, the consumer movement to support female entrepreneurs, I suppose.
I think that is what you're really well known for at the moment. But in the past, you were very well known for Coffee Republic. Do you just want to tell him about your career in general?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, normally I still get introduced as the founder of Coffee Republic.
I'm sure you do.
Which I feel is something I did a long time ago.
It's a very long
but
time
it does
ago.
always stick, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yes, kind of, as long as people, the young people probably don't even know the brand, although it was sort of quite famous back then. Yes, I started my life as a lawyer, basically. So never thought I was an entrepreneur. So I think part of my story is that people think you're born with an entrepreneurial chromosome or, you're born with some sort of a business flair in childhood.
Yeah, you're wheeling, dealing in the playground.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Unless you're not that type, then you've got no chance of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I was completely, I didn't stand out in any way, just a completely insignificant character that my teachers wouldn't remember me. I was not completely unexceptional, I think you can say. And I actually became a lawyer, so you couldn't be further away than being an entrepreneur. But really ended up sort of starting Coffee Republic because of a personal need. So I went to New York and I left my job and I just was taking a sabbatical. And I remember having a skinny latte for the first time in my life. And I fell in love with the skinny latte in the wonderful cups that don't steal the foam off your cappuccino and that you can walk around with them. And I got back to London and I just couldn't believe we didn't have them here. I just couldn't believe it. I sort of went around everywhere and I was like, how come we're still having rubbish coffee in sandwich bars?
What were we having?
We were basically
Polystyrene
going
cups?
to sandwich bars. So you'd go past a whole kind of refrigerated unit of crab mayo, egg mayo, that kind of thing first thing in the morning. At the end would be this coffee machine in polystyrene cups.
Yeah.
That would be really small. And the coffee would be dreadful because obviously they wouldn't spend any time cleaning the machine or making sure you were getting a great coffee. And then once they did the cappuccino and put all the stuff on it, do you remember they used to put, you're probably maybe too young.
No, I do remember.
They put the lid on it and then you had to sort of lick the lid off, basically. And I just remember what I saw and I really wanted what I'd seen when I was in New York. When I got back, I couldn't believe we didn't have it. And that was, I suppose people called sort of, it's a gap in the market. But for me, I make it much simpler. It was just something I needed in my own life. I wanted to wake up every morning and go to a coffee bar. Especially at that time, I'd worked most of my working life and most of my adult life. And it was the first time I didn't have an office to go to. So I was like, I'd love to go and start my morning in a coffee bar. That really buzzy, that kind of noise of the coffee machine, the smell of the coffee. What a great way to start your morning. That was really the idea. It was this need for myself to drink skinny lattes, which was really the reason I started Coffee Republic.
But essentially you brought the coffee industry to the UK in the way we know it today, didn't you?
Well, God, I mean, I'd love to say that, but I mean, at that time there was nothing like it.
There wasn't?
And so yes, I mean, funny enough now, when I get irritated, when I go to like buy some bread or buy a croissant and someone's like going, can I have a kind of, decaf latte, please? And I'm like, oh, and then my husband's always like, this is all your fault. You know what I mean? Everyone's so used to getting all this stuff. Like, but, and, no one did it at that time, but I did it because I wanted to drink it myself. It wasn't the sort of, I wasn't looking to crack a market or disrupt a market or I didn't even want to bring the whole, coffee thing to the UK. I just wanted to drink the coffee myself.
I mean, it's a long time ago now, but it is something I always remember that story. And I remember the story of you. I must have been in my early 20s when I heard what you'd done. And I thought, that's incredible. And I remember reading about it in the papers and thinking, how amazing to go to America and bring this idea back. So I'm not surprised people still ask you about it now, even though it's, 20 years ago, 25 years ago?
No, and kind of what we actually did, I remember, was I mean, I had no experience in marketing or branding or anything, something that you know much more about. But I remember kind of speaking to you know, when we first opened, then there was a company called Seattle Coffee Company behind sort of, and Starbucks hadn't come. This was like a couple of years before Starbucks came. And I remember saying, how can we PR like a company? How can we talk about this company? And I remember people were like, really, you know, people are not interested in companies, are not exciting, but people are exciting. Yeah. And I remember thinking, and they were like, look, you're a brother and sister. Yeah. You know, you're sort of quite young. Tell your story. And that we sort of like hacked the PR like that, because we started telling our story of, you know, exactly, listen, I wanted coffee. I came here and it's my brother, and sort of started kind of, our friends were annoyed, you know, doing lots of photo shoots, which I didn't mind. I'd never done that kind of thing before. But that was a great way, because, you know, someone said to me it was the best advice ever, is people will always remember a story. Which is true, because people are still asking you about that story now. Exactly. So they're always going, God, was that you with your brother? I remember that story. It sticks in their mind, rather than Coffee Republic is better than Seattle Coffee Company, or it's better than Costa. It's just, it's sort of, it was Coffee Republic equaled two people, and it just somehow goes into your brain, doesn't it? Like when you see two people, which is the advice I always give people: tell your own story, be the face behind it, because no one can be your face, whereas everyone can be a better business, or try and be a corporate identity, or a fancy logo or something like that. Yeah. So today you're running a fabulous community called By Women Built, which anybody on LinkedIn would have been absolutely inundated with all the content from an event we're going to come on and talk about in a bit. But tell us about By Women Built and what you do and why you do it. Tell us the story. Yeah, well, I mean, the story actually goes to when I left Coffee Republic, because Coffee Republic was a very short time. It was 5 years actually, you know, start to finish, and we grew it from 0 to 110 stores in 5 years. And then exited it. Yeah, and exited at that feeling, Tash, very much that actually, you know, entrepreneurs should stop businesses and sell them, and you mustn't stay on, and, you know, passion is meaningless when you're big. So, you know, very quickly we kind of handed the company over to managers, and we were, you know, we were sort of valued at £50 million on the main stock exchange. So it was a sort of good exit. But it was really after I left that I felt, you know, I loved what I did, and it was like a passion and a hobby, and suddenly I'm like, what am I going to do with my time? And you were only young. Yes, I just kind of, I just turned 30, so it was very, very kind of, I just couldn't believe it, and really felt this real void. I remember someone said, I think you should write a book about what you're doing, and I remember thinking, you know, I can't even write a thank you letter, let alone write a book. But I ended up buying this great book called How to Write a Business. How to write a non-fiction bestseller. So I ended up writing in 1 year, Anyone Can Do It. And Anyone Can Do It kind of, it's probably one of the things I'm most proud of. And it was really the story of Coffee Republic. And Anyone Can Do It was genuinely what I meant, was that actually I realized entrepreneurship is a process you follow. It's a series of steps. It's not a moment of genius. You know what I mean? It's not a eureka moment. And it's not a special chromosome. It's just that you get an idea, and then you go through the steps, and then it becomes reality. So always at the back of Anyone Can Do It, I was speaking a lot. You know, I entered the UK entrepreneurial ecosystem to the extent that I probably have judged, you know, every single year, every single business award there is. I know that whole community that supports entrepreneurship in the UK. I've, you know, chaired the government task force. And you were doing lots of speaking as well. I'm doing lots of speaking around entrepreneurship. And then I got involved with the Rose Review, which was Alison Rose, the CEO of NatWest, had done around female entrepreneurship. And the stats were extraordinary. That was in, I think, 2018, 19. And the stat I saw, I was quite surprised that in the UK, our rates of female entrepreneurship are 30% behind America, Canada, and Netherlands. So can you imagine that? 30% less female entrepreneurs than countries like Canada and America. And that 30% cost the UK economy 200 billion. So that is like the kind of almost low-hanging fruit of our economic recovery. So in these other countries, 30% more women are setting up their own businesses and running their own
compared
business.
To us, exactly, compared to men.
And
basically.
why is that? Why would that be?
A series of factors, but something that really stuck with me is confidence. Is you know, you can't be what you can't see. And a lot of the stats that came out of the Rose Review is women didn't think they had the right kind of talents and skills to become an entrepreneur. And that was extraordinary for me. And so for me, I was always thinking, gosh, extraordinary, because I know so many female entrepreneurs. But why is it they think that? It's really bizarre. And I've always thought that entrepreneurship suits women particularly well, because a lot of the qualities we have, is, around our multitasking. You've got to, you can't, like, basically multitasking is ultimately what an entrepreneur does the whole time. You're chief cook and bottle washer at all times. The fact that, we're the biggest consumers, what I mean? If the consumer economy had a sex, it would be female. The fact that we're networking, the fact that we're resourceful, the fact that, we're clueless and we're sort of willing to ask those sort of questions as we go. And it's that kind of vulnerability in a way. So a lot of those skills I thought were just really feminine skills that lend themselves so well to entrepreneurship.
I also think with women in entrepreneurship, there's definitely around that period when you're having kids and got young kids, it can really help to be an entrepreneur from the point of just flexibility and just your ability to kind of juggle all of that. So, I know for me, my own personal story was why I became an entrepreneur, not to like make 100 million, but just because I just needed some flexibility.
Exactly. And women are by definition problem solvers, right? We're always solving a problem. And entrepreneurship is actually problem solving at all times, as in you found a gap in the market, a problem you can't solve, and your business is the idea of solving the problem. So the resourceful, everything lends itself, feminine qualities, so much to entrepreneurship. So anyway, I couldn't believe the stats. I'm quite shocked. And then we went into COVID. And then at this point, sometimes in life, when you get the free time, when you stop what you're doing, and I've been very, very busy because I've just written my third book called Startup Forever around entrepreneurship in large companies. And so suddenly the speaking stops, I'm not doing anything. And, when you have that vacuum moment, which, I am now so grateful for, but by that time I was like, oh my God, I'm not making, there's no income coming, there's nothing, and I'm sitting there absolutely nothing to do. So I had time to go through my Twitter feed, and I remember it was November, the first week of November 2020. I'm going into my Twitter feed, and I see this tweet. And the tweet was from Jacqueline de Roccas, who was the head of Tech UK at the time. And she said, not all of us can invest in women, not all of us can mentor women, but we can all buy from them. I remember I remember where I was, and this idea, we can all buy from them, was so powerful. It was really weird that I had never heard that before.
No.
It was just such a sort of course we can't invest in women, of course not all of us can mentor women, but buying from them, isn't that the best way of supporting a business? Because ultimately, we all talk about, 2p out of every pound goes to female entrepreneurs, but a really healthy business needs customers, just grow through revenue, And I already, because I knew female entrepreneurs, I buy most of my stuff from female entrepreneurs because I love it. I love the fact that I know who started it. It gives me a connection. It gives me some purpose in what I do. So I saw the tweet and I was like, but, I know so many products are female founded. And I remember actually calling the person that wrote, Jacqueline, who wrote the tweet, and I was like, that was really powerful what you said. It's really strong. And I was like, we should do something about this. And it's really bizarre when these things come to you, I remember where I was in my house when I thought about it. And then I was like, actually, the problem is, if you tell them to buy, how do you know who's a female entrepreneur? Because I happen to know, because of these business plan awards, I judge, but the average consumer doesn't know. And they don't know how many businesses around us are actually female founded, because they might buy the products and drink the products and put the products on their face or eat them, but you got no idea who that's a female founder. We never say that.
I know, and a lot of the products, lots of members of your community and across the DC Live community, these are well-known products that are founded by women. They're products that you might just get from the supermarket, that you'll see in Boots. You go to Sephora, and the entire thing is pretty much female-founded brands.
Yeah, and we just did something with Whole Foods, and we had 60 brands in Whole Foods. Already, kind of stocked in Whole Foods. And so so there was this real disconnect. And of course, people don't want to say they're female founded. And I've never been one of those people that I've never thought, oh, because I'm a female entrepreneur, I'm different. But actually, I realized we've got a problem in this country. There's a 200 billion gap that we can get to if we get as many female entrepreneurs as they have compared to male in other countries. So I basically then set about, sort of during those long COVID months that we went into, I kind of called up someone who became my co-founder called Barney, and he was this great marketing kind of guru. And we were talking about doing something with purpose, and I wrote him an email and said, do you remember talking about doing something with purpose? I just got this idea of starting a consumer movement to get young people to buy from women-built brands. And at that time as well, we'd just gone into, we just sort of in the midst of Me Too, and then the very tragic death of Sarah Everard on Clapham Common. And it was that idea of these girls going with the sort of vigil, and there was somewhere all of us wanted to say, how can we support women more?
Yeah.
And then I thought, actually, well, this is a great way, to put it's, purchase with conscious, with something, as when you buy, make sure you're buying female founded. Well, it took a long time, Tash, as these things do, because you can have a great idea. I remember a year after a whole year of Zooms, when nothing was happening, I was like, well, this is classic, isn't it? The world is full of people with great ideas that they don't do it, and there am I. I'm another one. You know what I mean? 1 year of Zooms, I can't really have another Zoom, and people going, great idea, but sure, put the phone down, and I'm just stuck with a bloody idea in my head.
I'm so glad you said that, because there is a whole thing about overnight success, and we all think everyone else has been an overnight success, but they haven't really at all.
Yes, exactly.
Because I remember seeing you at some point, and your community has grown so much, but I think when I last saw you, it wasn't at the size it's at now.
God, no, it was just like, and I remember
because you were saying to me, it's this and it's growing, but now it's like.
That's right. Probably when I saw you didn't have anything, and the problem is, I think you're at your least sort of attractive. It's not the word, but is when you just have an idea in your head, because you sort of feel so small. And I actually did have someone that I will not forgive. I remember I was quite excited. And I saw another. I won't say who she is, but I got very excited. And I said, I've got this amazing idea, and it was just very much like, oh God, I was like, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand what that is. And everyone is sort of really trying to sort of poke holes, and it's weird, put you down with a new idea.
Yeah.
And I kind of, although I knew that, I written my book about it, still it was really difficult. And I just literally remember 1 year later, we were just closing up for Christmas, everyone, and I remember, and thank God actually it's always good to have a co-founder. And I remember Barney was really almost like took me off the ledge of, I was like, I'm sick of doing this. It's just like, I just can't have another Zoom, for nothing's happened. And this idea when nothing
felt like it wasn't working?
Yeah, of course, there was nothing happened. And then a year later, still nothing happened. And it was all these like little sort of moves, but another year of Zooms. And I remember it was basically a year later in December where I was sitting on a panel with 3 other female entrepreneurs. And we thought, I'm going to start a WhatsApp group, because I'm not going to, because before, you're always waiting for the big thing. I was thinking I'm going to get some sponsors.
Yes.
No one was coming in. And, you have the big business plan, right? But sometimes, like, it's just there, but nothing's happening on it. And it's always the small actions that count. Yeah. So then the following year, I remember in December, and this is again, how co-founder is helpful. He was like, you've got to start the WhatsApp. And it was really embarrassing. So I started the WhatsApp with 3 people on it. And I was like, I'm starting a female founders WhatsApp. And it was really embarrassing. I invited the 4th person. I was like, there's just 3 people. You're the 4th person. And then there was a 5th person, and then 10 people. And then now, to give you an idea, there are sort of 1,800 people in the community.
In the WhatsApp group?
The WhatsApp group is now, I'm keeping it down to about 120. Because that's just the people that were on it. And we've got a community tool now. So, sorry, I'm going to go back, I digress. So the community became, because I'll never forget, once I had the WhatsApp of about, I think, 16 people, I had the first ever coffee morning that Anya Heinmarsh hosted for us at the Anya Cafe. And they all sat around the table, and I just suddenly saw the chemistry between them. And they were chatting, and then they were like, oh God, I had no idea that you'd started this business. And this was like really my initial 16. I had no idea they didn't know each other, and they knew each other's brands. And it was literally that coffee morning was magic. And I was like, God, they just love seeing each other, and they love communicating, and they felt so much more. It was like it filled up their heart, sort of recharged their battery after they saw each other. And I was like, God, they love meeting each other. It's amazing, because they're all so lonely out there, struggling every day, an obstacle. And, we just at that point have come out of COVID, and everyone's just trying to kind of draw breath, really. So it was just really lovely. So it's sort of behind the consumer movement is this community, and just the way that we have now a community app.
But then the community powers the consumer movement, doesn't it?
Exactly.
I run a community, e-commerce community, D2C Live, and I have never known about communities before until having created one and being inside it. And there is huge joy from seeing people meet each other.
Exactly.
And realising that they don't know each other, and then seeing them become friends. It's not like a financial KPI, but I love it. I'm like, please all become friends, please all meet up. And then when you realise that as the community founder, you've kind of facilitated all of that. It's just an incredible thing. And then the community itself then empowers what you're trying to do.
That's right. That's exactly. And I mean, to be honest, we're very much bootstrapping like any businesses. We've got our lovely sponsors of sort of Goldman Sachs, Rothschilds, NatWest and Charles and Hamlin, who sort of support us in a way to be able, because it was just me, and then now I've got the most incredible team around me that are powering the community. But we can't afford to advertise or have any marketing spend, or we only just hired our social media manager. We've never done any sort of marketing spend, any money on PR. But it's great when you've got the community that powers it up, sort of thing. And they like talking about it, their brand gets air, and they all collaborate together. And, just after this, we have a big community event with 3 of our founders speaking about how they grew their business. We have 150 of our founders turning up for the event because they want to hear from each other.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and kind of, there's nothing like a story of someone, and it's almost this sort of safe vortex for them that only someone else will understand that. Because I think very much what's really lonely about being a founder is often in your personal relationship, you have it all day and you really want to vent to someone. And I find often your romantic partner is not the person for you to vent to.
Yeah.
Because you almost want to kind of put it aside. And, somebody they don't know how to help, or, kind of, it's just the issues. Whereas actually when the founders meet and they're just on so much, like someone's had that experience before, someone give advice, and they can just really open up and really offload, is really beautiful to see.
So you've got 1,800 women in this community. So you have a huge understanding of a vast array of women running consumer brands. What do you see across the community that makes women great at running consumer brands? Why should more women think of doing this as an option in life?
Well, that's before they join, we do this questionnaire. And it was my questionnaire I had to put in, because that's what I believe. I was like, I started this business from a personal need, yes or no? And 96% of them say they started from a personal need, something that they sold themselves.
Yeah.
And, that's actually a great, great place to start a business from, because that means that if you need it, as Michael Dell says, it's likely if you've got a problem, 20 other people have got a problem, right? You're not the only one having that problem.
Yeah.
And so it's very genuinely started. They didn't start to disrupt the market. They didn't disrupt, to kind of build a business. They just needed the product in their lives, be it from Joanna Jensen, whose child had eczema, to, we know Maxime's story of making collagen for herself. Everyone started from a personal need. And that was what makes their connection to the customer so close. And therefore, so their business is so genuinely innovative. And sort of really all round such an amazing business, and we're missing out if we don't know the founder.
And what do you think, what female-owned businesses do you think that you have in your community that the public don't know about and should know about? You're probably going to say all 1,800.
No, but I swear to God, now we're getting to the point of like sort of, of the submissions. I love with my team, kind of Maddie, Amisha, Serena, we sort of look through it, and then I'm like, oh my God, like Viridian supplements was started a woman. I had no idea.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Could you imagine?
No, I had no idea at all.
Completely, like sort of Holly and her mum. Then I was like, oh, Estate Dairy. There's really cool milk bottles that you see in Estate Dairy, like the old style milk bottles, but they're very more. Oh my God, started by Rebecca Young. I'm like, so I swear to God, this is like whenever this, because the submissions come through once a week, we look through them. We're like, oh my God, I had no idea. So I am quite good. I'm a lawyer by training, so due diligence is something I do really well, right? Still, I have not. There are just still so many of them that I have no idea about. And what's great about Why Women Built is sort of made everyone go, hey, like, it's me. You know what I mean? Like, who's a female founder? And then the word gets round, and it's like, it's me. I started that. And no one ever dared say it's me. Kind of, I did this. And the idea is the more people go, I did this, and now we've got the kite mark that kind of was recently launched, is, my idea is if you're sitting at the breakfast table, and maybe if you're, a girl who doesn't have, unlike your daughter and what you do at BizKids, a mother who's inspiring her, or, someone comes from a disadvantaged, maybe, I don't know, abused household or whatever, someone that's no one, no one's there, you're not lucky enough to have parents that show you your potential. Maybe, you might just look at that little juice bottle, the milk bottle, your cereal bottle, your cream, your shampoo, and go, built by,
and see the kite mark.
And you're like, oh, a woman built that. And somewhere along the brain, some little thing in your brain, some paradigm's going to shift.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see, a woman built that, a woman built this one. So maybe if she did it, maybe I can do it too. And that's what I'm hoping.
So let's go on a trip down memory lane, because your first photo ties in perfectly with what we're talking about now, which is the launch of the By Women Built kite mark. You've shared a photo of you and not all 1,800, I don't think, but a large number of your community at Downing Street. So what happened? Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. I mean, you know, again, from the beginning, from day one, I said, I want these female founders to be celebrated at Downing Street. And I have letters I wrote to ministers, you know, hello, you know, I've got these female founders. You have no idea how many female founders there are. You know, is there any way you can call Downing Street and get them there? Because I wanted to launch it in Downing Street.
Yeah.
Well, it took kind of 3 years. They didn't launch it in Downing Street, but finally, through this wonderful person called Isabel Spearman, who started the Daily Dress Edit, who's very good about supporting female founders. She introduced me to Akshata Murthy, Mrs. Sunak, and Sunak is so supportive. She is so supportive, Akshata Sunak, about female founders. And she was like, I'd love to host an event for you. And I just told her about the kite mark, because the kite mark's actually on packaging, so it's always taken everyone quite a long time to get it on their printed packaging. And you know, you can invite 90 people we can fit into the staterooms at Downing Street. So you've got carte blanche, make up the guest list of 90 people. We'd love to host you. And we had a fully By Women Built tea. So we had Humble Crumble making the crumble there. We had Scutter and Squidge with the cakes. It was a full-on sort of, we had matcha tea, we had the steak dairies, we had Good and Proper tea, we had biscuiteers, you name it. There was sort of all there with the drinks. We had Pip Organic. And the founders came, and the energy is just incredible. The founders, it's sort of just all of them outside. And
fantastic. So your next photo is your book, which is not a new book, is it?
Exactly, anyone can do it. That I think I already talked about, because that really was you know, something when I left Coffee Republic. You know, I suppose a business that you have, especially with coffee bars. Coffee Republic's not at all the same as what it was. I mean, it's not hardly around. But that book was really that journey, and I wrote it, and I think it was important, and it has inspired many entrepreneurs. I've got letters from people that kind of, you know, about, a lot of people tell me, God, I read that book at that time, because no one really wrote books like that. That actually, it's not an overnight success. It's not about like a biography. This is about like the journey, the ups and downs.
And one of the things I love about your approach and what's outlined in the book is the step by step. Everyone, I think, less so nowadays, because I think things are changing, but people used to think you either were an entrepreneur or you weren't. But you're outlining that actually you're just taking a series of progressive steps.
Exactly. It's just literally instructions to follow. And those are the instructions that sort of my brother gave me. And so, so that was, and you know, literally, the amount of, like, so many people I meet are like, oh my God, I read your book. Because it was one of the first books of its kind where people really told the sort of warts and all story of what the journey was like, the sort of hard-tugging journey of entrepreneurship. So that's definitely my second one.
And your final trip down memory lane photo is a photo of you and your mum. Why did you choose this photo?
I lost my mum 16 years ago. And she was really, and people should always before ask me, you know, who's your mentor, you know, who's your inspiration? I was like, oh, I don't really have a mentor. It was only when I lost my mum, I was like, oops, she was my mentor. And she was just the one that, you know, just constantly kind of went to that place of you are limitless and how much we can achieve. And she so believed that, you know, if whatever you put in, you get out in a way. And I just, you know, I was just so kind of inspired by her love and her encouragement. And now, you know, everything I do, I think about her really the whole time of how much, you know, just it's sort of really a belief in someone that there's so much limitless potential in someone. It was wonderful. I was very blessed to have a mother like that.
What do you think she'd have thought of the Downing Street event?
I think she would have loved it. She would have absolutely loved it.
Any mother would, wouldn't they?
Yeah, she would absolutely. And she would have loved the whole connection with all these women, and sort of like, she would just sort of, and I think in a way, you know, I've not had my own children, I don't have my own daughters, and I think the connection of these, you know, that feminine energy that I was so lucky to have because of her, that belief in women and the power of women. I think a lot of that I'm able to channel to the By Women Built community. And it's a lot of her, because it sort of sits in my heart kind of thing about a lot of stuff that she left for me. I want to pass on, really. So.
Fantastic. And just before we end, Sahar, what's your final word? You obviously talk to a lot of women, you hear from a lot of women. If you could say just one thing to female entrepreneurs and female founders, what would it be?
Oh my God, sort of, you can do it. I can say you can do it. My next one would be leap and the net will appear. Actually, do you know what? Even better is leap and the net will appear. So that's actually my motto in life, because I think as women, as I said, we've got everything we need to do it. We've got all the capabilities, but we overthink. Mm-hmm. We sit there, we overthink, we overanalyze. That's the one part of the female that we've got to tackle. That's the only thing that prevents us. So leap in the net will appear is don't stand on the ledge. Should I do it? Ask people advice. Just bloody do it. Just take the first step.
But it's so scary to do it.
No, but it's not scary, because once you start taking the first step, it's like me with the WhatsApp group. There was a WhatsApp group of 3, but that was the biggest step I took, was opening the WhatsApp group and putting 3 people in the WhatsApp group. Yeah. That was the biggest step I ever took in that journey, was just that one thing.
Leap and the net will appear. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Sahar, for coming today.
Thank
it's been
you.
a pleasure to meet you. And where can people find out more about By Women Built?
Please just go on our website. Actually, even better, if you go on LinkedIn or Instagram. I think we're big on Instagram with everything we do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sahar. Lovely to have you
on
today. Thank you.
Thanks, Tash.
Tash Talks is proudly sponsored by Recharge for smarter subscription experiences. The world's best brands are powered by routine, and the world's best routines are powered by Recharge.